Hello everyone, this is Humam again from the radio station of the American University of Iraq in Baghdad at 101.5. And again, this is another episode with the ELA. And today I have a very special guest and a friend of mine. She's an instructor and a program coordinator here at ALA. I'm not going to tell you a lot more about it, but I'm going to hand you the mic. So just tell me about yourself.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Humam. My name's Kumi. As you said, I'm an instructor at the ELA. Actually, one of the early instructors I joined in 2021.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's been an interesting, almost 3-year journey.
Mm-hmm.
Before I came here, I had finished my master's in linguistics, and so sort of wanted to make the connection between a more theoretical linguistic background and applied linguistics, which is what language teaching is. So, yeah, that's what I've been doing here. And then after some time, I sort of ended up in a sort of a more program coordinator role, which the ELA Academic Success Program needed. So that's what I've been doing for the past almost year. Yeah, that's me.
Perfect. Well, you know what our main topic here is, the ELA, and to be more specific, is listening and speaking. So can you provide an overview of the speaking and the listening modules offered at the ELA, and what specific skills do these modules aim to develop in students?
Okay, yeah. So the Academic Success Program, it's obviously primarily an academic preparatory program, so getting students ready for university studies, so listening to things that they would hear at university, like lectures, and speaking in a sort of more academic, formal way at times. But that also includes group discussions that students might have with their lecturers or in classes. And so the program tries to really prepare students for that. There are kind of two parts of the program at the moment. When students enter, if they enter at the lower level with maybe a lower English proficiency, it's sort of more focused on developing general speaking ability. So really having conversations with each other, having conversations with the teacher in groups, pair work, that kind of stuff.
General life skills conversations are related to listening and speaking.
Yeah, so listening to things that are familiar and maybe some curricular topics. So things that students would already have a frame of reference for in their day-to-day life. Like we can't just throw them straight into academic English.
It is hard, actually.
Right. So it has its own rules and procedures. So initially just getting the students used to listening and speaking to English more often than maybe they would in their everyday life in Baghdad. So that's what happens at the lower levels. And then there's kind of a switch to the higher levels to sort of more academic focus.
More academic focus. What about, this is a lot of work actually.
Yeah.
And what kind of strategies or techniques are employed to enhance students' listening, comprehension skills in the English Language Academy? What strategies do you follow?
Okay, so I guess in terms of listening, there are different skills that students need for listening and then different strategies that they can employ. So listening just to the general overview and getting a general sense of what they're hearing. Maybe listening for main ideas of what someone is talking about, listening to their classmates and partners. What are generally they talking about? Then listening to more specific types of language categories or grammar, like asking questions. How do you know if somebody's asked you a question? So listening for these kind of key things in English. Then listening for sort of specific things, and then listening at the micro level of like phonetics. Can you hear the distinction between words? When one word links to another word, can you hear that that's actually two words instead of a jumbled mess? So really trying to target all the levels of listening comprehension and listening ability. And speaking kind of the same, using that process to kind of listen but then produce the language.
Perfect. What about the types of listening materials and activities utilized in the listening modules? Like how are these materials selected to cater to the diverse needs and interests of each student?
Okay, so when we started I guess 2 years ago now, or more than 2 years ago.
Nearly three.
Yeah, nearly three. We were primarily using sort of a Pathways National Geographic Cengage core textbook. But the listening in that, again, it didn't provide students with enough of a more rounded listening experience. And the topics, like I said, they were more curricular and more academic. So we had to decide to incorporate things from so many other resources. So, and with the sort of growth of the faculty. Teachers bring their knowledge as well from where they've worked before, masters they've passed, and dissertations they've written on linguistics and listening and all that kind of stuff, to I guess create a bank of materials that we've been pooling. So students can listen to, I don't know, general conversations, real life conversations, or they could listen to something a little bit more academic. I think more recently, I'm a big champion of this, is creating audios from using AI, so generative AI technology.
Nice.
And you can create things that are authentic. So students are listening to so many different kinds of things from different sources, whether it is National Geographic's Engage, whether it's teacher created, whether it's something from
different disciplines.
Different disciplines, definitely. That's really important, because the students are coming in and they're taking different
so they face different languages, maybe the professional one from the business, maybe the scientific ones. And how do you work with that?
Well, one way we've done that is to have a theme for every term. So, and the final exam that students take is kind of aligned to that theme. Again, at the higher levels, it becomes more academic, so business related, science related. We even have some sort of geography, humanities kinds of things. Exactly. So students get, for an extended period of time, some input in a specific subject. It may or may not be related to their subject, but you know, the thing about an American style education is your first year is sort of generalist, liberal arts, where you're taking a wide range of different topics and you're exposed to different things. So,
you know, there's general English and there's the academic English, and they both, you know, listening and speaking. I know that students face a lot of challenges when it comes to speaking. They do translate in their mind from Arabic to English, and this is for the general. What about the academic? It's even harder. And how do you teach students not to translate in their mind?
That is a challenge.
That is a real challenge.
It's a big challenge, because students will try to write a script for everything that they have to say, especially if there's a speaking assessment. And really, we want to encourage and focus on just fluency and speaking naturally. Authenticity, exactly, and spontaneity. You know,
exactly.
Even if you get things wrong. So I think it's just a case of managing the expectations of the students of what actually you want them to produce at the end. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it wouldn't be perfect, but I just want to see you do this, 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 and this. So be really specific with them about, I'm looking for you to sound really natural. I'm looking for you to ask your partner a lot of questions. I'm looking for you to ask me questions. I'm looking for your actual opinion on things. And so that part of that means choosing topics that students already know about, right? So keeping it familiar, rather than at the early stages too academic, because then, first of all, they have to go and learn about this thing. They'll probably learn about it in Arabic first, and then they'll think about it in English, and then they'll just translate.
And that makes them, you know...
So.
What about the extracurricular activities? Out of the class, maybe the radio station.
Yes. I try to encourage students to come to the radio. I kind of embedded it in one of my classes I believe last term, or maybe the term before. Last term?
The term before, I remember,
Yeah, so where we came down to the radio, I mean, I was teaching the reading and writing class with level 6, but we sort of came down because part of what is included in the academic experience, even though you're writing and reading and researching, is speaking about your topic. And so I thought, okay, let's come down to the radio and let's find a forum in which students might feel motivated to speak. And I really liked the sort of the workshop you did on linking punctuation with speaking, because sometimes the students look at me like, oh my gosh, who cares about punctuation? You still know. It is
really important.
Yeah, but they think that you still know what I'm saying or I'm writing if I don't put punctuation. But the workshop you did connecting that to how you then speak about a topic, I think it really illuminated things for some of the students. So that was one thing I personally tried, and I've encouraged other teachers to do the same. We have one teacher, Amanda, who she's taken on leading conversation circles for students. And I think that's going well. It's sort of been consistently available to students and teachers to go to throughout the term. And I went a couple of times, and it's really interesting. You get to know the students in a different light and build relationships. So there's definitely that. I mean, that's what the ELA does. I hope and I assume that, you know, the other societies and clubs students kind of help students foster their English.
You know, public speaking, conversations, maybe debate is really important.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is the extracurricular activities. What about the, you know, are there any additional support services or resources available to students who may require extra assistance?
So something that we started last term in the ELA is a study hall. And I think study hall is, I think it's going quite well. It took a while to get off the ground, but
to build
essentially,
everything up.
Essentially the students, one teacher or a couple of teachers are available outside of class time in a designated space that students then go to with any of their queries or problems
Guidance.
Or questions. Yeah. And the thing is, it's not their own teacher necessarily. But hopefully it'll continue in the future.
Yeah. You know, part of listening and speaking, for me, what makes it very interesting and when we put something related to culture. So how do listening and speaking modules address intercultural communication and help students develop a deeper understanding of different culture perspectives?
We've got teachers obviously from the US, from Scotland, from Ireland, from South Africa, from New Zealand, from Australia. You can learn a lot. So we even learn a lot about each other. And even though we all speak the same language, there are cultural differences that we laugh about and share. And then sometimes we can transmit that to our students. We can have conversations with the students about, tell me about Baghdad and I'll tell you about where I'm from. This kind of dialogue.
Sharing from, cultures. This is very interesting. Last but not least, for the people who are facing struggles with speaking, listening, maybe anything related to English, what advice or encouragement would you give to students who are facing these challenges?
Okay. So typically people, the students want to focus on their speaking and they think maybe that their listening is fine. But really, the two skills, if you want to master the speaking skill, you really have to focus on the listening first. So that would be my first piece of advice. Focus on the listening a lot more than speaking, because once you have that skill down, the speaking, you can then use what you hear as a model to work from. So listen a lot. Listen to different things. Listen to Humam. Listen to me.
Listen to us. People, like when we speak about listening, when I see student or any person, hey, I'm listening to music, I think it is good for my English. Do you think that only music is good? For me personally, I think music didn't help me a lot to improve my listening and speaking skills. But what do you think is more important than the music itself?
So I think it's individual. So some people love listening to music to improve their
but I think it makes you speak like in a rhythm.
Kind of.
Is it right?
Yeah, it could. But I think the one thing that every good listener does is actually listen actively and be